So this winery was kind of a love story, a love project from my father-in-law, who was born in this village of Atoloco that we live now, and had to leave when he was about 11 years old. So when the winery started, he was living in the U.S. He still lives in the U.S. He left to the U.S. to become a successful businessman there, and came here because he loved the village, because he really wanted to reinvent the village. He wanted to put this village on the map and obviously create the best possible wine out of this little village. So this is how the winery started, but obviously the problem was he doesn't really know anything about winemaking. So he brought in some experts. We had geologists, enologists, viticulturists, from all over the world. He brought them in here to figure out what, where, and how to plant. So when the vineyard was planted back in 1993, the first vineyards were planted up in the mountains, because down here with the villages, we're way too close to the sea level. It's way too hot, and it's way too much water, actually. That's why in this village we have, in this whole valley that we live in, there is a lot of citrus, there's mangoes, there is avocados, which loves water. Grapes don't love water. The thirstier, the better. So the vineyards are planted about 2,200 feet, which also gives it much cooler temperature, which we really need, because Crete, being the most southern winemaking region in Europe, has a huge problem. Obviously, the sun and the heat will make the grape really ripe and get this kind of really marmalade character, but we're not really looking for that when you have a really ageable wine. Some of our wines could be aged 20, 25, 30 years. So it's really crucial, the acidity and the freshness, which helps by being high altitude. When he started, as I said, it was just a really love project, and it was a hobby. So when my wife, Alexandra, came here in 2007, she took it to the next level, started growing it, and now we're a healthy business. When Ted came here back in '93, he brought in all these experts. We had some experts from the US, from UC Davis and from Virginia Tech. We had Pascal Macham, which is from Canada, from Quebec, but he owns a winery in Burgundy. We had Laurence Ferraud from Domaine de Pégard in Châteauneuf-de-Pape. We had Yves Héraudy. Yves is the vineyard geologist in the world. Imagine that he's the consultant from Petrus, Romane Conti, Leroy, and etc., based in Jura in France. So all these experts gather here trying to figure out what can we do with this little village. And they all agree to one thing. Here reminiscent a lot of the south. South obviously being south of France. Because kind of always a heart goes to France when you're producing the modern wine, which is what we're drinking here. Specifically the Rhone Valley. We have a lot of sun. We have a lot of slopey hills. And most importantly, we have a very strong breeze coming here, keeping the nights very cool, very hot, hot daytime. So they said the Rhone varietal suits. We planted Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, and Roussanne. And until 2011 was the only grape varieties that we were working. And 2011 we planted a couple of the local varieties from Crete, but also from the island of Santorini, the Assyrtiko. Which has a very different character because of our terroir, our soil. Here we have schist, we have clay, we have a lot of manganite, iron, and sand, of course, on some parts of the vineyards. So today we are also working with the Muscat, which have some really old vineyards, pre-phylloxera. We have the Vidiano, which is kind of the queen of the Cretan varieties, Assyrtiko, Assyrtiko is just awesome. Of course, we are working now with the local variety only of Chania, the Romeico. So we're experimenting a lot, but still our main varieties that we've really been doing in the best quality, because obviously there's more knowledge and we have more track record, is the Rhone varietals. Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, Roussanne. You have to try it. So as a winery, because we are not looking to be a very technical winery, we don't want to create a product that is super consistent, because obviously this is not the nature. What the nature allows us is 1 year is going to be hot, 1 year is going to be a lot of rain, 1 is going to be a lot of wind, 1 year is going to be... So obviously these reflect a lot in the grape. We could modify the wine to become very technical, very clean, tidy, by adding and removing a lot of things. As a winery, our philosophy is just let it be. Let it be as pure as the nature allows it, though still being winemaking. We're not trying to be lazy. We're not trying to be a natural wine, because we believe that to showcase our vineyards and our terroir, and of course our skills, we want to have the minimal interference but not neglect it. And that's why obviously some vintages might be one way, some vintages might be different. But also actually it's been a big difference since Alexandra and I have started being involved. We are changing the style of the wine. So less oak, less extraction, lower alcohol, so more finesse to the wine. But it's just because we like the wine that way, and that's how it's going to turn out sometimes, yeah. Today, the Manousakis winery has kind of changed a little bit of the style compared to when the winery started. Of course, this has to do with the trends, but also the involvement of myself and Alexandra. And the philosophy has not, though, changed. The cleanliness of the vineyards, the focus on the vineyards. I mean, we have most of our work and passion is done in the vineyards. This will reflect automatically in the winemaking. Of our vineyards that we plant, all of them are organic farming, and the grapes are organic farming, and also the winemaking we try to be organic, even though with the American classification you might not write the same things because it's very, very different, the laws there. Here, they're considered as organic wines. We try to have kind of independence, so each label will be very, very different in style. I don't want two labels to taste even closely like each other, because no variety tastes the same, yeah? And sometimes this means that you have to put no oak, sometimes you need to put age it in oak barrels for longer, sometimes you need to ferment it in huge oak barrels. We have some foudre, as we call them, about 3.5 ton, which we say about 4,500 bottle barrels that we do fermentation and aging in. This gives very different characters. And then when we talk about the red wines, we used to do up to 40-day maceration, you know, leaving the skins on with the juice to extract all these colors and flavors, but we kind of like it less. So we lower it down to 25, and even the Grenache will go down to 16 days, 18 days, just to get a little bit more finesse to these. But I think in general the philosophy is to just let the nature be and let the nature speak, and this could sometimes reflect in our vineyard as well, because even though we are owning a certain amount, we only plant about 50% of our land, because in between that we have herbs, we have olive trees, orange trees. We don't want to sterilize the land. We want to keep this because that's the natural symbiosis. That's the harmony between one plant and the other, and this also helps them from diseases. The same, we do work a lot with beekeepers. We try to keep it as a local ecosystem, that they are really in harmony, and that will reflect in the wine. And of course, that's our philosophy, even from the light bottle that we choose to the recycled box. You know, it's a part of our life today. You know, philosophy in life is just Hakuna Matata. I think is the best answer to that whole thing. I think it's the one words that, I mean, the one sentence I use most is Hakuna Matata. I cannot say any more than that. And it's true statement. It is what we believe in. So in our vineyards that we started to plant, it was sand, schist, clay, with a lot of iron. That's why you see a lot in the soil here in Chania, and specifically in our vineyards and our mountains, is very red because of the oxidation of the iron. Some vineyards that we start planting later, they are just purely sand with subsoils of clay, and very rich in manganite. Manganite is a mineral that gives body, gives color, because the sand is really draining. You know, water goes, it's just gone, which is really good because that makes the plant really thirsty. The thirstier they are, the more they need to search for the water. It makes the roots really deep. So actually, to pick up water, it needs to pass through longer amount of roots, and that collects a lot more salts, minerals, nutrients, and makes the wine more structured and obviously more terroir. Another part of a terroir, which many people talk only about the soil when talk about terroir. For us, a terroir is tradition. Our terroir is obviously location. Here in west part of Crete, we're very blessed because we have the winds coming from the mainland Europe. They're really cool, humid, and what happens is we have a lot of gorges. With these gorges, it can work like a funnel. They go in, gain speed, and so it's a lot of, up in the vineyards, a lot more wind and very fast wind, which gives cooling, remove a lot of the humidity, which is a problem because where we are. But in the same time, we have a lot of rainfall because the rains cannot pass over the mountain that we have. It's too high. So huge rainfall, a lot of sun, cool nights, cool dry area. It's perfect condition for our wines and these varieties that we have chosen. I don't do anything else. Because if I don't work with wine, I work in my restaurant, which I work with wine. So I study as a sommelier. And in my restaurant, which is in downtown Rania, we have a quite big wine list. And we're working with wine. So there is no time where, except family and wine. That's my life today. You know, it's.
Sounds like a good life.
Yeah, it's not a bad life, you know. I think one of the most difficult part of owning a winery is to realize it's a business. And sometimes a very difficult decision is to obviously make the direction to understand that it's a business that you need cash flow, you need to sometimes raise the prices where you cannot. Don't forget, we are in a country that has extremely high taxation. This will reflect on the price point. Land cost is ridiculously high. We're about 3 times higher than if you go to the south of France in Provence, 3 times higher in Crete. This will reflect on the wine, of course. So you have to make sometimes the decision is, you know what, sometimes we're a business, we need to go in this direction even though we might not love it. Now, we've been very fortunate that we have other businesses that are supporting us. So we can do most of the time, let's say 98% of the time, we do what we want. We want to buy a new press, buy a new press. We want to have the best barrels, get the best barrels. We want to buy a new destemmer, we buy a new destemmer, because these are pure money. So sometimes you just say, okay, well, we were putting our labels on by hand until this year. And this year, for the first time, we bought a labeling machine, which is awesome. That really helps us. But our priorities were the winemaking, the vineyards. So a business is always a business. And if you can't pay the salaries and the taxes, you know, that's tough. That's reality. In the island of Crete, there is about 70 wineries. Let's say that as bottling and quality production, 35, 40. Our winery has always stood out because we were fortunate enough that we worked as a winery and not always as a business. And this was because of my father-in-law, his passion. Every time that it was needed and necessarily, investment was made from abroad. And this really made us stand out because we were not always forced. We never had a bag-in-box leaving this winery. We never had low-end wine because we just didn't want to focus on those kind of cash flow wines. We always wanted to, what are we making? The best possible wine, whatever the terms are, costs are. The similarities between us and other wineries is that we're family run. I think that 100% of the wineries on the island is family run. You can always meet. And new generation. We see a lot of new generation. We are young, we are young and we are powerful, you know. But most importantly, I see there's family. And this is something that we really have across the board in Crete from all wineries, which is really, really amazing because if we need help, we need somebody to help, you know, harvest. Thanasis, Yanni, come over, help us, you know, and have a couple of bottles of wine take home. It's perfect. I think one important part, seeing our wine, is don't be afraid that it's a Syrah. Syrah is a Mediterranean variety, Grenache is a Mediterranean variety, Mourvèdre is a Mediterranean variety. They're planted in every single country of the Mediterranean Sea. Grenache, we call it Granada, Garnacha, Canonau. We have so many names, and they're planted in Tunisia, you have it in Morocco, Cyprus, Croatia, Italy, where's Canonau, yeah? We have it in France, Spain, Portugal. When you see these, sometimes you say, well, when I'm drinking a Greek wine, I want it to be a Greek variety. These are Greek varieties. They are Mediterranean varieties. It belongs to us. So a lot of times I like to say that it's really important. Just taste it. It's good, go for it. It's not good, I understand. Don't buy it again. I'm super psyched about our collaboration with GreekWinestrip.com, and just click the button, buy it, buy other wines. Once in a blue moon, buy our wines, but most importantly, drink Greek wines.